Whether you're ready for it or not, it's here. Welcome to Stormbreaker's Weather Report, Episode 8, the podcast where MCP gets a forecast. Let's dive in, introduce ourselves, and talk about the latest hot takes, cold fronts, and stormy debates in the MCP. Tonight with me, I have a date with Dustin, and just Dustin. Me and him have decided to elope, and we're doing this one by ourselves.
I'm uncomfortable now.
You should be. You're alone with me at 9 p.m. Western on a call. You've already made it this far. There's no going back.
I could always leave the call.
Yeah, but I think I can gather where you live, and then it's all over from there.
Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find.
You got any? You want to talk about the swap meet?
Yeah,
how's that going?
Not a ton of new news. Right now I have the date set. It's March 15th, and that's going to be a Saturday. I did have some people reach out to me, which is kind of cool whenever there's like an organic, hey, I know somebody who went to the swap meet a couple times ago and I want to go now. So that was just fun. It popped up in my email, made me happy.
Yeah, anything to make
But
you happy.
yeah, right now we're just kind of in that phase where I'm getting everything ready and reaching out to people, kind of letting them know that, hey, it's on the horizon.
Yeah,
And
for
once
sure.
we get like a month out or so, I get more serious about going to different game stores and meeting new people, trying to get them to come in. So,
Absolutely. It's March 15th, Saturday in Centralia, and I believe the establishment is called what was
the
that again?
Battle Lounge.
Battle Lounge. Yeah, new place down in Centralia. That's in Washington, if you're not familiar. Um, the swap meets are a great place to get rid of your old junk, get new junk, and just have a general overall good time. It is kind of different for you to be doing it on a Saturday. I feel like most of these have been happening on Sundays, unless I'm
You
mistaken.
know, I rotate them. I try and do 2 Saturdays and 2 Sundays in a year because we do them quarterly.
Okay,
And some people just can't make Sunday. Some people
sure.
just can't make Saturday. So it'll be a Sunday again here pretty soon.
Yeah, for sure. No worries. I was just curious. We have a lot to talk about tonight. So, without much ado, I gonna break down the schedule a little bit. We're gonna kick things off with some new characters, uh, two new leaderships, obviously a couple new tactics cards that are coming with those new characters that have been released, and even some leaked new crisis, too, at least that I know of. I think there might be even a few more, but on the agenda we've got Gladiator. He's a big new sixth threat. That's going to be really exciting. We got a new leadership and new character with Maximus the Mad. We've got a new leadership under a new Medusa. We haven't actually seen her card yet, but we've seen her leadership, which comes on a tactics card. Not my favorite, but the leadership is very similar to Malekith's. Um, it is almost the same, except instead of an allied character moving or healing or removing a condition, it's the character that does the dazing. And then obviously we have some new tactics cards to go along with these characters. After that, towards the later half of the podcast tonight, we'll be doing a new type of game. Call it the affiliation game. And then this last week, the reason that we missed last week is I was over in LVO and Las Vegas, getting my jam on with my spider foes, and I'll go over a little bit of how that went and what did and did not go well, and we'll shove it in Dustin's face that he didn't get to go because he's not worthy.
I'd like to point out that you technically lost more games this weekend than I did because I didn't play any. So who's the loser now, Devin?
Oh, that's fair. Yeah, I lost more, but played infinitely more than you.
Yep.
That's funny. All right. Well, like I said, we have a lot to go through tonight, so I'm just gonna jump in, and I would like to start off with Gladiator. If you have him in front of you, he is the big new sixth threat. I'm just gonna go through his card real quick so everybody listening can hear. He's sixth threat with 9 stamina. He's got 4/5/4, so he's got a buff in the energy defense side. He's a size 2 medium mover. Um, he has a range 3 builder that is 6 dice base, and its trigger is a suppressive. It's the typical you lose a power if they roll a wild for each wild. He has a 2 cost spender that's a beam 4. It's 5 dice base. And the reason that all of these attacks sound a little lackluster for a sixth threat is if you skip down to the bottom ability here, he has something that's called confidence tokens. And this is in the ability the Majester's Bravado. Basically, when he does damage, he gets a confidence token. When he takes damage, he loses a confidence token. So it could be bleed, it could be any form of taking damage. He's losing these confidence tokens. But also, if he does a beam and hits like 2 people, he could get 2 confidence tokens. And
That is incorrect, Devin.
am I wrong?
Um, yeah, the Majester's Bravado is specifically damage with a Praetor
Okay.
Punch
All right. All
attack
right. My apologies.
with the
So
builder.
in order to get these, he has to be using his builder. I'm wrong. However, the removal of them, I was still correct in that it can be bleed and other forms, any form of damage, and this guy loses a confidence token. But
Correct.
uh, all right. So I stand corrected. The only way he can facilitate getting these is with his builder, which is the 6 die physical. Every time that he gets one, he adds dice to his attack rolls for each confidence token he has. And that one is not specific to his builder. That can be any of his attacks. Um, and then he also has, going back up to the top here, he also has his spender, which is a range 3, 10 dice base, 5 cost attack that has 2 triggers, both on a wild. It's a stagger that's on the obviously on the wild, and then a wild throw. The throw is before damage, and it is a small throw. And then he also has a charge. The interesting thing about this charge is he makes a move action. It's specifically his builder attack, so not just any attack. And then it will also gain him a confidence token when he does damage with that builder attack. So not only is he getting the base confidence token from actually doing damage with the Praetor Punch, but he also gets one from this ability. So if he charges and does a damage, he's getting 2. So his second attack, obviously will have 2 extra dice. So whatever he decides to use with his second attack. Uh, and then he also has an ability to throw size 4 terrain long within 2 of himself. So I mean, this card is just loaded. And then last but not least, he has flight, which is, I mean, if you've seen the model, is definitely expected. And he has the extra power gain per turn. So he gets during the power phase, he gets an additional power. So he's starting at 2 power. His charge is 3 cost, so he's not doing his charge unless he's getting some sort of benefit. And then he's also not throwing unless he gets some sort of benefit. So both of those are 3 cost. He starts with 2. So maybe if he's in an affiliation that gives him a power, that's something he could do.
Yeah. So why don't I read his tactics cards before we discuss
Uh, I'm on
exactly
the phone,
what we
bud. You're
think
gonna have
about
to
him?
wait
Just
till later.
because they
I
both
can come into
have
your room, but I'm not tonight.
relevance to his confidence
I'm gonna be talking for
tokens,
an
and
hour.
that's going to affect how you play him.
So not okay. Yeah, I think the confidence tokens are gonna be a big on his build here. I think like focusing on maintaining those, preventing him from taking any damage. So like I think, and it's a weird thing to want to like bodyguard a sixth threat, right? Like prevent him from taking any damage.
Hmm.
He has 4/5/4, so like he is very defensive. But do you want to risk taking 1 damage and losing that confidence token? He can only have up to 5, but can you imagine if he got 5 and did what would this be? A two cost beam 4 10 dice attack, like 10 dice beam 4
Yeah.
for two cost. Like that is insane.
Yeah.
Or a 15 dice spender or an 11 dice builder. like
Yeah.
like the possibility is just off the charts. Now, um like I said though, do you really want to be like bodyguarding a six threat with like a two threat or a three threat that just follows him around? That seems like a lot of allocation. But if it's already
I
there, then it's not a big deal, right?
Yeah, and I kind of think you do with him because if you look at his defenses, he has great stats, base stats, but he has no defensive tech, which, the high health is a defensive tech on its own.
Right.
But I've definitely seen characters just get 7 or 8 damage on them off
Oh
one
yeah.
good attack.
He's got 9 front and back, so he's total 18 for a six threat. I mean,
Hmm.
that's pretty close to Hulk. Like that's a good six threat health bar. But yeah, like I think he's going to be completely focused around how many confidence tokens he has. I think he's going to suffer into affiliations that really hand out bleed, like Dracula. And I think that's already been talked about a little, or even just like chip damage, rapid fire attacks, that kind of thing, just keeping him down.
Yeah.
But he's very exciting. He he has a lot of sources of damage that he can output. So I'm curious to see how he is. As far as my opinion, I think he's a good sixth threat. I don't think he's blowing us out of the water. He's not a Thor 2, I don't think, but I guess we'll see.
Well, his one of his tactics cards, Protector of the Empire, is an unaffiliated reactive card. And it says whenever another allied character is dazed or KO'd, an allied gladiator may pay 3 to play this card. Gladiator advances M towards the enemy character that caused the effect, then makes a Praetor's Punch attack against it. If this attack dazes or KOs the enemy characters, after this attack is resolved, Gladiator gains 1 confidence token.
Yeah, that's huge, isn't
So,
it? Because now he's getting a medium advance. This
mhm.
tactics card's giving him a confidence token, and the Praetor Punch, if it does damage, is also doing uh, a confidence token. It does say if it dazes or KOs on the tactics card, but even just being able to make a medium move and do that attack might generate you just one confidence token, and that's a lot in itself. Um,
Yeah. And the thing about it too is it's if an allied character is dazed or KO'd. So that means that if you haven't activated him yet, he can potentially stack up right before his activation, and now he's closer to an
right.
enemy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's going to be like super OP, but I do think that having an out of activation source is going to be important for him because if he's only gaining it off of his uh, activation, he's only going to be able to gain 2, right? Because he can
Right.
only double builder. But
Well,
here
well,
we,
three, right? Because
oh
he gets his
yes, off his
charge,
charge.
right?
Yep. So I think it's going to be important for him to build up as quickly as possible because I mean, how easy is it to get 4 ping damage off, and now he's just back at 1.
Yeah.
Um, but I
It's
think that he's got this cool little micro economy in him. And I don't necessarily think it's going to be broken. I think it's going to be good, but you also have to put time into it.
Yeah, I think there's a cool mechanic for this guy where like you can't just ignore him and let him sit like you can with Hulk. You can't just displace him and say, "Oh, I'm not going to deal with him," because here he comes charging in with a range 3. We already have problems with Thor and the amount of distance he can cover. This guy can cover quite a distance, and he's getting stronger the more you leave him alone. Versus like Hulk, he's going to stay the same. Uh, he's just generating power in a corner. This guy, you have to give like little chip damage at the very least to keep him from doing those 10 dice beams or those 15 dice spenders or those 11 dice builders. Like this guy can absolutely fly off the charts if you just ignore him. Um,
Yeah.
And from there, let's go ahead and talk about his other tactics card. It's cool that he's coming with two. He's a sixth threat, and if you're taking both of his tactics cards, this dude can be an absolute terror on the table. With that kind of allocation of tactics cards. But the other one is called Praetor of the Imperial Guard. This one says it's unaffiliated, it's active, it's during Gladiator's activation, he may pay 4 energy to play this card. Choose up to X other allied characters where X is equal to the number of competence tokens Gladiator has. Each character gains 2 power. Well, so this is a mid game play, obviously, because he's not. This is at earliest he's going to get this turn 2, but with his 2 power turn. But handing out, let's see what by turn 2. Let's say he has plays this at the end of his activation. He has anywhere from 3 to 5 confidence tokens. So he could theoretically hand out 2 power to the whole rest of his team. Do you think this one actually deserves a slot after since earliest
My
you're going to be pulling this off is turn 2, or is this too late?
my gut is telling me no, because yes, you can get it off in turn two, but it seems like you kind of have to plan very specifically for that to happen,
Yeah.
and it might not happen every game. Or even if you can get the 4 power on turn two, if you're focusing on running and grabbing objectives, your team might not be clumped up enough. So you might be giving out 2 power to one, maybe two characters, which is still good, but you have to think about power generation. It's a lot more useful at the beginning of the game.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
you just don't, as far as I can think of, the only way to cheese it would be a Spirit of Wakanda long play,
See, I
and
was
then maybe you could pump it out, but he wouldn't have any confidence tokens
Yeah,
that
so
early in
that's
the
what I
game.
thought initially too. I was like, okay, so what's the best way we can cheese this card? And this card's really specific to confidence tokens. So the fact that he doesn't generate one on his turn, or and he doesn't generate one unless he has damage is limiting, right? So he's not pulling this off turn 1. This is earliest turn 2 card, and he's spending 4 energy to do it. He's got anywhere from 3 to, hey, let's say he all builds all the way up to 5 confidence tokens, and he's giving out 2 power to other characters. Here's the issue though. He's the sixth threat in your list. How much rest of the list are you actually bringing? And are they worth getting rid of his power to donate to them? This is my question. Like, is it really worth getting that 2 power across the board turn 2 on other characters who are definitely going to be less than a sixth threat, right?
Yeah, and I mean, looking at his card, he's actually fairly power hungry. Like, he does
Yeah,
generate one additional a turn, but you're probably going to want to be doing his charge as much as possible,
absolutely.
because it nets you that free confidence token. And then he has a great throw.
Yeah.
Um,
Long
I mean,
throw, size 4.
side four long, that doesn't come up very often. And so, while that one you might not be using every turn, it's still 3 power, and it will be convenient at some point. He also has a 5 dice or 5 energy cost spender. Um, it's 10 dice base. So, I mean, if you have 2 or 3 confidence tokens, you're looking at a really big attack with a stagger
Yeah.
and a throw.
I don't think that card makes it in. Honestly, I think it's a cool card, but it's not going to be a competitive card. I think you take the other one, the Protector of the Empire, 100% over this one. It's a
Yeah.
reactive. It nets you an extra attack. It gives you a medium advance. Maybe it,
Well,
it gets you 2 confidence tokens potentially. Like that. That's the card, right? It
yeah.
doesn't.
Let me ask this. Because I fully agree on Protector of the Empire over Praetor of the Imperial Guard, which slight not to 40K, unintentional. um, but like, let's say that AMG didn't get the balance right between gain and loss of confidence tokens, and you're usually sitting at 1 to 2 confidence tokens a turn. Is he still worth 6 threat? because this is his whole thing is like if he has five consistently,
Yeah,
he's throwing buckets of dice. But if he's taking too much damage consistently, is he a good six threat?
I'm gonna be honest. With one confidence token, just one, I think this guy is still really good because
Yeah.
now you have a range three seven dice builder with suppress, which is gonna make your opponent lose power on wilds. That trigger's not much to scoff at, but it is building you more dice for that second attack.
Hmm.
And it's also a very familiar attack in someone else, right? This is what Thor has. Um,
Mm.
Thor has a nice little like pinging electric on it, but he also doesn't have a chance to get bigger dice. And then look at our other seven. Look at the other seven threat who has a beam for Malekith, right? He has
Mm.
a beam for that gets him a power. This guy has a beam for that could be potentially 10 dice or even just 6 dice if he has one confidence token. It only
Yeah.
costs 2 and it's handing out incinerate. I think this guy's good even if he has one.
Okay. Yeah, and my immediate similarity to Malekith was his spender. That was the first thing that I noticed was like, oh, 10 dice.
Yeah,
That's something that you don't see too often. I agree. I think he's going to be a good six threat. He doesn't seem like he's breaking anything to me, but time will tell. If it's
right.
really easy to stack up five confidence tokens on him, then that I could be totally wrong in that.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. I so yeah, like just recapping, I think he's a good character. I think you can absolutely donate a whole bunch into him and make him an absolutely like dominating character by giving him that extra tactics card for the reactive attack. You can bodyguard him to keep all his confidence tokens on him. He's got a cool throw. He can his charge gets him an extra confidence token. If you can keep those confidence tokens on this guy, and you're not going up an affiliation that hands out bleed pretty heavily or hands out chip damage pretty heavily, this guy's going to dominate the table. But if that's the counter, if you see this guy across the table, make sure you can hand out bleed. Make sure you can do some chip damage. I mean, shit, my tricks and traps will mess this guy up pretty bad. Um, but I still think he's going to be good, and I think there's a lot of matchups he's gonna run. But let's talk about the crisis that came out that are going to come out in the same pack with this guy. It's called the War of the Kings box. There's two that were revealed in the same transmission with him. The first one is a secure. It's a 17 threat. It has 4 points, 4 terminal tokens. They're called points of interest, and you score 1 victory point for each security terminal you control. So this is um, it's a little closer than a B shape, a little farther apart than sword base. So not quite infinity, not quite sword base. Um, these are pay to flips, but they're a little different in how they operate. They so you interact with them. When you interact, you roll 3 dice. Doesn't use any energy, physical, mystic, no defense. Roll 3 dice. If the roll contains more crits, wilds, or hits, so that's 50% on the die roll, then the number of healthy enemy characters contesting this terminal, so it doesn't care about injured, you now control the terminal. So that's an interesting way of doing a pay to flip. I will say I like it better than using your defense personally, and I don't see any downside like we've complained about previously in our crisis. And then the second part of this, it says if a character is holding one or more extract tokens, it may reroll 1 die when interacting with a security terminal. That's an interesting new addition that we really haven't seen on any of our pay to flips. Before I move on to the extract, what do you think about this one, Dustin?
I think that first of all, isn't it a G map? It's hard to tell on this card. I think
Yeah.
it's the Sigma sword.
Is
Uh,
it the same as sword? So it's two. It's a little hard to see on the transmission, but
yeah, they don't put the letter on them anymore. I'm pretty sure this is a G map. Um,
let me
because
double check. Let's see.
yeah,
Uh,
but
it it's
while you're
actually
doing
labeled as an M map. So
an
it
M map,
yeah,
okay.
which is not one we've seen yet. So it's not quite a G, not quite infinity, but an M. So it's
Okay.
4 plus 2 from the side, and 5 plus 2 from the player side.
Okay. First of all, on the map shape, love it. I think that we need as many different layouts as we can get just for variety because depending on how often they update these crises, um, it can get stale.
Yeah,
And just
absolutely.
having more options as far as map layout is good. Um, the rolling three dice to contest, I think it is fine. You know, it's uh, I I'm a fan of having the character's defense just because it does incentivize you to bring characters that are good on that specific role. But I'm not opposed to this at all. My favorite part though is the bottom line. If a character is holding one or more extract objective tokens, it may re-roll one die when interacting with the security terminal. And
Yeah,
it's
isn't
I
that
don't
neat? That's
yeah, I
really
don't think
cool.
overpowered. I think it is a good way to incentivize players to do both. And as we'll see on the next one, that's something that AMG seems to be leaning into, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That the other one that they released in the same pack, it really synergizes with this secure, and it is a 20 threat. It's called Security Breached and Royal Rescue. It is also it's 4 key card tokens. These are assets, so not civilians. And they're set up in the same shape as scrolls. What is that shape called? It is called
Okay.
a J shape.
Okay.
Um, and this one says you score a victory point for each one that you're holding during the cleanup phase. So that's the same as always, hasn't changed. You interact, you pick up one, you can only hold one at a time. So this is exactly as like scrolls from the top so far. And here's the kicker. When a character holding a key card interacts with an objective token, after the effect is resolved, it gains 1 power. So it, it's not going to help you pick up the first one, and obviously, you can't hold 2 here. But if you're on a pay to flip, just like Guardian, Save, Shiar, Empress, and Style, the one we just talked about, after you interact, whether you succeed or fail, you get that power back. And
Yeah.
that's a really cool synergy.
Yeah. I'm a fan of this for sure. I think between the two, um, Mystique stocks are up
Oh, yeah.
because I think that she loves to, especially on turn one when most affiliations can't do it, pick up that objective, pick up a key card, and then walk back, hit that secure, and now you have another power. So you can interact twice, and you're ending with a power still.
Yeah, that's really cool. Just thinking about that for Mystique, like usually when you see a pay to flip, Mystique's like, oh man, this is not the mission for me. But if you have a pay to flip with ship security, um, you could actually pop off with her leadership, right? On that turn one, she moves up, grabs that closest scroll, that J-shaped key card, right? And just
Mhm.
moves back to one of your M-shaped, uh, like points there. It sits on the back of it and tries to flip it. And after she's done all that, she still has the 1 power she started the turn with
Yeah.
because the extract gives it back to her. That's really big. I I'm really keen on that. Any sort of safe grab character that can come up, grab a key card with one move, and move back to a pay to flip with another move, is gonna have essentially only -1 power after the double interact, right?
Yeah.
And if they're in
So
Mystique Brotherhood, they're gonna have the same amount of power they started with.
yeah. Other affiliations that I think are gonna love this are like Web Warriors, where the power tax can sneak up on you,
Well,
and they
what about like X-Men doing first class?
yeah.
Like
I mean
that turn one first class is gonna be hilarious. Is you go pick up the key card for free, then you move to the pay to flip, interact with it, and get your power back. So it's just like Mystique Brotherhood. You get your back to whatever you started with.
hate that first class play. It's been around for forever.
Yeah, yeah, it
It's
absolutely
just
has.
like every time you go up against the next one player, you're like, all right,
Here we
get it
go.
done.
Just do it to me. I know it's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really do think that like it's gonna be good for those middle range teams where it's like you're not going for super attrition, but you're also not like insane scenario. I think it does help scenario teams more than attrition teams, but like mid-rangey teams where they're not gonna try and table you, but they are gonna fight back and run the objectives. Like I think that both of these are really good for those.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more. This is a really neat addition to that kit that we, that style of play, right? The mid range.
Yeah, and he's got four more of each that haven't been spoiled yet, right?
Yeah, yeah. There's supposed to be 5 crises of each type in his box,
Oh
so
my gosh, I'm so excited. We're
is
gonna see
it's gonna
Gladiator on
change.
every table.
Well, yeah. I mean, the fact that you're basically like you get a character plus you're buying the crisis pack, you're gonna see Gladiator. Like everyone's gonna have this character.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a lot to talk about. So let's continue on here. Let's go to the next transmission. This is Maximus and Black Bolt. Let's start with Maximus. Um, I'm just gonna go through the character a little bit, and then we can talk about him. It's called Maximus the Mad. He is Maximus Boltagon. He is 2 physical, 3 energy, 5 mystic. He's 6 stamina on his front and 6 stamina on his back, actually. And 4 threat. He's size 2. He's a medium mover. He's got 2 attacks. They're both mystic. First one's range 4, 5 dice, 0 cost. It's a builder. Again, we're seeing the suppressive, so wilds make your opponent lose a power before damage. Actually, this one is after damage. I apologize. That's kind of different.
Mm.
Um, and then the second attack, his spender, is called Neuro Annihilation. This one's range 3. It's 9 dice, and it is 5 cost. The defending character cannot add additional dice to its defense roll or modify its defense dice. I wonder if that includes crits, because it sounds like it does.
Yeah.
It has a wild stagger, and so then we get into his leadership ability, which I'm going to skip
One sec.
for the
A
moment.
note on his builder.
Okay.
Suppressive is the same as gladiators. They're both after the attack is
Okay.
resolved.
What is Bucky 4 threat different? Let's see what his is called. Yeah, so if you look at Winter Soldier Operative 4 threat Bucky, he has the same ability. It's called Suppressive. It says before damage is dealt for each wild in the attack roll, the target character loses 1 power. This is called Suppressive. And it says after the attack, like the Maximus the Mad and Gladiator one is called Suppressive, and it says after this attack is resolved, the target character loses 1 power for each wild in the attack roll. So this is the same exact power with a different description.
I do not like that. I think that is a
Yeah,
big mistake
that's
from a
a
rules perspective.
that's a miss, but also that's me thinking they're about to change what suppressive does.
Maybe if they come out with an errata or something to update it, then okay. There's a gap where things have to be switched over. But if they do not change that quickly,
Yeah,
I just
it's
think having the
confusing, right?
same superpower is a big
Yeah,
annoyance.
it's really confusing that they use the same name and almost the same ability. They just have one being afterwards and one being before. Okay, the Twitch chat is perking up as we're getting close to Maximus the Mad's leadership.
Yeah, go on.
Connor is asking if it's the worst, and Tippett has championed in to defend it. I assume because of what our talk that we had in Discord the days ago. But I'm gonna skip over that for right now, and I'm gonna just address Maximus as a character before we get into his leadership. So I talked about his spender. The ability that he has after his leadership is called "Did You Forget Why We're Here?" This is a 2 cost superpower. Choose a character within 3 with an activated token. Advance that character small. This superpower can be used only once per turn, so it does not say allied or enemy It can be either, right? You can just advance somebody small that's already activated, um, which is kind of neat. I like that. And then he has a reactive ability. It's called It's Madness, my favorite kind. It's 2 cost. When an enemy character within 3 of this character makes an attack during the modified dice step, this character may use the superpower. This character rerolls 2 of the attacking character's dice. So this is a kickback to Crimson Dynamo, feels like.
Mhm.
He's got the Inhuman superpower, which is the reroll 1 dice in attack and defense, and he's got immunity to poison. So as a character, not bad. I I
Yeah.
like his abilities. He's a mystic attacker with a weak physical defense. That's pretty standard.
Hmm.
Um, he's gonna suffer to throws. He's gonna get beat up by physical attackers. But obviously, he's got some ways to keep people away from him, reposition people, which is cool. I like that.
Yeah, I think as a character, he's all right. Like his spender is pretty good. 9 dice they can't add or modify, and a stagger like that. That's pretty fair for 5 power.
Yeah,
Not a huge fan of his. Did you forget why you're here? Because you have to choose a character with an activated token to advance it.
yeah.
I know there are a lot of characters out there that just do the advance without that extra condition. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't think he's bad. I think as a 4 threat though, there are probably better options.
I I think he's like I think he's like a blade equivalent leader. Like he's not an anchor, but he's not like a shining star either.
Right.
He is a decent character that you have to be careful with into the wrong like matchup. If you get a heavy physical attacker across from him or close to him, he's gonna suffer.
Hmm.
And I mean that's obvious, right? His kit leads to that. All right, now let's talk about his leadership. Let me read it off. It's called Call Me Maximus the Magnificent. Affiliation is Inhumans. No surprise there. The first time each turn an allied character attacks or defends during the modified dice step, it must use this leadership. Reroll 1 of its attack or defense dice. If the rerolled result is a skull after the attack is resolved, your opponent places the allied character within 1 of its current position, and this character gains 1 power. All right, so before we talk about the reroll, the last stanza of this ability places the allied character within 1 of its current position, and this character gains 1 power. We have another problem where we had the Dracula issue, where who's the character gaining a power? Is it the one getting placed, or is it Maximus the Mad? They need to stop it with this phrasing because it's confusing.
Yeah. Blob also has some similar terminology. The way that it reads to me is that Maximus gains the power.
That's the way it reads to me too. This is pre-Dracula like specification. They've used the same terminology where it says this character gains 1 power while sort of having the allied character mentioned right before it without this is
You know what
incorrect
would fix this?
grammar.
You know what would fix this is the use of the word that.
Yes,
That
yes.
it's just so easy
Please,
to say.
please use that. All right. Now the actual reroll part. For the first attack and the first demon defense that you do each turn, anyone that's affiliated with him has to use this superpower, has to reroll 1 dice, regardless of if you got 4 successes or 0 successes. Um, I think not having a choice is bad. What do you think?
I I would agree because I'm reading the second line. If the rerolled result is a skull, after the attack is resolved,
Yeah, I
your
haven't even
opponent
got there
places
yet.
the
Haven't even
allied
got there
character.
yet. That's the supposed everyone has glued their eyes to this downside. This is the downside of the positive side of this ability. The
If you're
downside, the downside is that if you reroll that single reroll, so you have to specify it. If you have multiple rerolls, like in the Inhuman ability, you can't be like kind of just like wishy-washy. You have to say, all right, here's my leadership reroll. Here's my inhuman reroll. I reroll my with my leadership. If that one hits a skull, you get to place me within one. If the inhuman
Yeah.
one hits a skull, it doesn't matter. So you have to be specific when you're re-rolling. That's kind of just like neither here nor there. I'm not gonna judge that one. That's just like a oh, okay, whatever. You have to do a similar thing with Cabal and RS3. Um, but the upside of this, the supposed upside of this leadership is that when you're attacking or defending for the first time each turn, you have to do a reroll. I like the reroll. I don't like it's forced.
Yeah. I mean, I like that the leadership is always on, but the question of is what it's doing good is a big issue because like when you take a leader, that for most people is what you are building your list around. So having leaderships that are always on inherently isn't a bad thing, but forcing the reroll, um, it, yeah, I don't think it's a good look.
I think that if you use this leadership and hit a skull, like has the upside and downside, I'd 100% be on board.
Well, I think that it can be even simpler than that. Like, just say May. Like, it may re-roll one of its attack or defense dice. The leadership would still be on. You could just say the first time this happens, the leadership triggers, right? But it may re-roll a die. But now
Right.
you're in some cases just downside when this leadership is on.
So, uh, Tippett has said that they want to join the Discord and talk about this leadership, and I welcome it. If you'd like to join, switch over to our Discord and you can tell us what you think, because he has been the shining star for defending this leadership, and I'm curious to hear his verbal
Yeah,
take.
yeah.
Let me see if I can pull him over or add him to this. Oh, he did it himself. All right. You're still muted. I assume you know that, but welcome to the podcast. This has been an interesting debate over Discord, but like I said, I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
So I haven't had a chance to actually sit down and play because I've had a lot going on. But Fel specifically, Tetsuo on the server has been kind of like ghost running it for me. We've been talking about it off and on. Um, it's not top tier. I just want to frame this again. It's not a top tier leadership, but I think it's pretty good, like sleeper level good. Um,
So
the down
when you say sleeper level, like what's the quantification? Like where would you put that? Um,
So good it's bad.
like are we
I think
talking?
this is probably better than it's worse than the stand-on objective leaderships that like
Okay,
just let you change a face, like say Modoc or
right.
like you hit a wild. It feels slightly worse than that to like maybe slightly better to it depending on your situation.
Okay.
I think the downside of getting placed, a lot of the models can get around it with either place triggers on their attacks, like Shang-Chi kicking, or in faction you have like built-in medium moves on like Quicksilver spenders and stuff like that, or around that kind of area. Not to mention Lockjaw. So you can kind of stack your triggers so your opponent places you, and then you get your reposition. So it forces you to be able to have better positioning by giving you a downside. If that makes any sense,
But
it sounds like very back assward, but
let me ask this because you brought up Modoc and like M'Baku has a similar leadership to him. Um, M'Baku's leadership, when you roll a wild, you get to turn one of your other dice into a hit, and you also get that stands-on objective effect of can't be pushed. With this one, it seems like the upside is the reroll, and then the downside is just if you roll a skull, you can totally lose your positioning. Is that worth it?
So in my head, if you're playing a game, there's going to be a lot of repositioning happening, like full stop, and with the small chance to be placed and lose out on your positioning or whatever, you can supplement it by just selecting your first attack to be attacks that like compensate for it. Place on it, like Rhino. I mean, Rhino's a poor example because he only has one attack. But like you Black Bolt, you Master Punch, and you leadership, and now I'll place within one. So I think that answers the question a bit.
I
Interesting.
mean,
So
I'm just
like Black Bolt's timing, right? He
Mm-hmm.
places himself before the attack, and then
Oh,
because
is it before? Sorry.
for we're talking about original Black Bolt, right? Black Bolt 1 with his Master Punch. He places himself before, I think, and then after the attack he would
I'm
get placed again, right?
No, so he places after the attack,
Oh no,
and he
you're
also
right.
has
You're
the
right.
throw after the attack. So you stack the triggers in a way. So say you Master Punch with Black Bolt, you
Yeah.
roll your dice. Maximus makes you hit a skull. You tell your opponent, place me one, and now I place within one of your character. And now it just doesn't matter because that was the plan initially.
Right, because the leadership placing happens while the dice are being rolled and not after the attack. Is that kind of what
No,
you're going for?
they're both after the attack, so you
Okay.
stack them how you'd like.
Okay. I like
Because
that workaround.
like Beast kind of does the same thing if I remember correctly. I think his is after damage.
Yeah, he's got to hit his wild, I believe.
Yeah, but
so
again, you're helping that happen because you get a reroll.
yeah.
And
So
then
basically, you're saying that there are characters that can negate the downside. So when you do roll a skull, the place effect is essentially nullified. You're gaining a power, and you get the reroll.
yep. And then the reroll kind of helps also dampen damage coming in and boost it going out. And like a list that I've been working on has like Space Loki in it because you can have Giant's Blood to get back in if someone tries to follow up, or you can space other people back in, or your turn can just be like walk walk.
But don't you think that like building around the like negating the downside makes this leadership inherently not great?
I don't think so because the funny thing is when you brought up the M'Baku thing before,
Hmm.
was that the reason I'm dying on this hill is I told Fell that M'Baku's leadership, the push aspect of it was bad, and they keep rolling it like none other. They just hit it every time. So me saying that this is a 1/8 chance of something being bad that I think I can work around would be just disingenuous of me. So I am dying on this hill because I said that to them.
I
So
well, I value your commitment then.
so what is your thoughts on what we were just talking about with Devin, where it is a mandatory reroll? So
Mhm.
if you get the results you want, you still have to reroll.
Exactly. One of the other things that we kind of discussed a little bit in like just like DMs about it, like Fel and I, was things that stop attacks. Like if you sack onto, or not sack onto someone, but if you like lifesaver and someone has to attack again, or you eye in the sky if you want to make builds like that, it stops that first attack so you don't even have to worry about it. And I know, yes, you're losing your leadership, but if it's in a situation where it actually like matters that much, you can work around it with tactics cards and superpowers on not your turn.
Interesting. I would like to see it in action because I mean, off the top of my head, I can't think of any other leaderships in the game where the default way to play is trying to negate the leadership's downsides. Because most leaderships don't have strict downsides, they just say, do this thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I would not say that this is standard or even I mean, I can't think of any other leadership off the top of my head that's like that, other than maybe calling Sin that to some people.
Yeah, I mean, like what? It's hard to even think about leadership with a like, oh, you lose power or you take a damage. Like there are what Red Skull 3, but his leadership is so powerful, you hardly ever hear of someone dazing themselves or losing power
Y-
in such a way that it matters, right?
Yeah, now that I think about it, I think Killmonger 2 is the only other one that's kind of like, oh, you use it or lose it in a
Yeah,
bad way.
the herbs or whatever.
Yeah. I think just at this point in time, I'm kind of like, I'm deep enough. Screw it. I'm going to try it. I don't feel like the downside of being placed and giving a power to Maximus is that big of a downside. And I think the workaround of it is going to give you just an extra tanky and very consistent list. And I have horrible dice luck. That was my nickname on Longshanks before I changed it. Let's just try and get like three separate single rerolls on every character.
That's another thing that I was curious to ask. Do you also agree that this is the power goes to Maximus, or is this just a mistake that they're gonna fix just like they did Dracula?
I think Dracula really set the precedent for it, so we know that this or what is it? No, it's right.
This
This
character.
character.
This character is the character that the power is on that you're reading. That's what they said about the initial one, and then they changed the wording on Dracula's on release. It might not have been a change. It might have just legitimately been one of those, hey, would they put up the pre-production like final, but not the final draft.
Right, yeah. I got
Yeah.
you.
Well, I think like I did mention Blob. He has a similar instance of he places himself, and then every other character is pushed two if you got the trigger, and it says within two of this character, and so that always causes confusion because people are like, okay, is it Blob or is it the character that he's being placed off of?
Absolutely. It's the same thing that people have with Deadpool's like super spender on his back.
Yeah,
The dance party or whatever. Yeah. Um,
yeah.
that's I'm curious to see what you take. I hope to see your list in a couple games, or maybe when you get done, or you have a good list that you've tried a couple times, put it in the Discord so we can take a look. I'm curious.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm pretty sure I'm just going to run it into the ground at events that you guys do or we're both all at, but it's probably going to be my new pet project.
There you go.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll leave you guys for the night and have a splendid one.
yeah,
You
thanks for hopping on, man. Have a good one.
Absolutely. Bye.
All right, Dustin. So the other thing that came in that box, I think we fully addressed Maximus there, in more ways than one. Let's quickly go over Black Bolt here, King Black Bolt, and the tactics card that are going to come in this box. Um, King Black Bolt, he's a 6 threat as opposed to the 5 threat Black Bolt. He's 4/4/4, 7 stamina, 6 health, size 2, medium. His builder is a beam. I guess it's a gainer, but it is a beam, so it's 5 dice energy. He's got a wild push on size 3 or less, push away. And then he has a spender that's range 3, 8 dice, 4 cost. After the spender, he can advance medium, and it has a wild throw any size before damage is dealt. Throw the target character. That one's omnidirectional, but it is in any size, which is pretty cool. He also has a very much like Pyro or Storm, an ability called Increase the Volume for 3 power. He can add 2 dice to his attack roll, so his um, he gets a power at the start of his turn, but he doesn't have quite three. So maybe turn two, or if he gets past a power somehow, he with well, he couldn't have Inhuman's leadership, right? Because he's Black Bolt.
Yeah.
um, if he got like a Wong passing a power or something, you could do it on turn one. But this makes his beam into a 7 dice beam 4, or his spender into a 10 dice range 3 with a throw. He also has hit and run. Um, the attack and move after for 2. He could do this first turn, which is cool because it means he's probably sitting on a point and getting an attack turn 1, which is what you want from a 6 threat. His third ability is called Telepathic Command. Choose another allied character. This one specifies allied character within 4. That character advances small. So right back to what Tippett was saying with the control pieces in Inhumans. This can get those characters that have been placed back onto points if you needed to, or just get characters into the fight, one or the other. He also has the Inhuman reroll. He has anti-gravitron control. When he would suffer damage, reduce that damage by 1 to a minimum of 1. That's pretty wild for a 6 threat, 7 on his front, 8 on his back, so 15 total health. That's that's kind of huge. And then he obviously has flight immunity to poison, and then his last ability here is Inhuman King. At the start of the activation phase, you may choose one allied character with the Inhuman superpower. So this is the power that I've been talking about with the reroll one dice in attack or defense. The chosen character removes one special condition. This is kind of interesting considering this is almost like a whole Asgard leadership. If you take all characters with the Inhuman superpower, you could just get the benefit of Thor 1's leadership minus the health part.
Yeah. I so as a character, I like him a lot. And here's why. It's mostly between his builder and increase the volume.
Yeah,
A beam 4 is great. As a gainer, I prefer beams as gainers rather than builders, just
yeah.
because you can gain so much and you don't even have to roll well. Um, but you increase the volume on that, and oh my gosh, if you're on an E shape with him and you're doing 7 dice beams with pushes, it's like, oh,
It's a pretty big deal.
um, yeah. I think he's got the telepathic command that we like to see, and it's range 4, which it. I don't know if that's the farthest one, but it's definitely one of the farther ones
Well, I
because
mean,
most of them cap out
it's
at range 3.
comparable. It's comparable to like uh, Thanos, right? His uh, his place at range 4, or it's hard to think of other characters that are moving people at range 4, like Mystique's tactics card that changed, right?
Yeah,
I guess Ebony Maw's attacks, like that's a long distance, even though it's allied character, it's pretty useful.
yeah.
Loki 2 recently does it, right? But he's a place as well.
I
Um,
mean, I think that he's all around a good character. Um, I don't think that he displaces Black Bolt 1 in most situations.
yeah, like when are you switching up your leadership, or is he just a splash that's a good sixth threat? Because like the beam is really cool, but you're losing out on Inhuman's leadership, so that means you're taking either a completely different leadership or you're taking Maximus the Mad. And is he good in that affiliation? He does have the tools that Tippett was talking about, um, with the with being able to move allied characters, right? Um, he,
Yeah,
he he also has a spender that advances himself, so like he can subvert his own placements. Um, but
yeah,
let's talk about the other leadership that they're getting. Right now they're gonna get three. Right, we have
yep.
Maximus, we have Black Bolt 1, and the one that I think that he's really gonna you know fly or be flush in is Medusa's leadership. It is a tactics card, which I'm not. These aren't my favorite because they take up one of your slots, but it is a good leadership, and it says it's called Inhuman Queen. You play it on Medusa. Oh man, her name. Actually, seeing her surname is hilarious. Medusalith Amaquelin Boltagon.
Yep. And this is not a new Medusa.
No,
This
it's the
is
same one.
the same Medusa we have.
It's Queen of the Humans. Once per turn, when an allied character dazes or KOs an enemy character, it may gain one power, may remove up to one damage, and may advance small. These are and, so these all can happen. Um, this is Malekith, except only for the character that's doing the dazing. Um,
I love it.
yeah, this is great. This,
Like, this is a leadership that, I think Black Bolt 1 is still the default, but this is one where it's like, well, in the right situations.
yeah, this is you brought your range to, you brought your I don't have any movement on my character, but I have one other enemy character in range. Let me just daze that character, get a short advance, heal, and power, and now I'm in range of a different enemy character. This is really good, and um, I mean it is an entirely different leadership than Maximus, but it also helps subvert that leadership, which they can't work at the same time, so it doesn't matter. But it is very good. I like this one a lot.
Yeah. Plus, it's on Medusa, who is a solid 4 threat.
Oh, I love Medusa.
Um,
She's so good.
yeah, I mean, she can be taken out if they focus her down, but in general, like whenever Medusa's on the table, she's doing something. She's usually my first one to pick off in humans
I
because
I love her.
I know that she will mess me up.
Yeah, I love her so much because her royal decree. Obviously, you're getting people moving around the board, but her living strands coming up against Zemo or like any heavy reroll faction like Guardians, or even like obviously you can't stop Cabal's changing the skull crits, but you can stop Dark Reign. She's just really good at being defensive. Not quite the Black Cat, but having a reroll herself and stopping other people from rerolling is a really cool ability. And
Yeah,
she's got that enemy character size 3 throw at range 3. She's got this cool place ability if she ever wants to use her spender that can take a bunch of enemies off an objective token and put her on it, which is really cool. I've always loved her kit, and I think that it's cool that she's getting a leadership um, that isn't necessarily like it's not her thing is displacement. She has a bunch of displacement on her kit, but also helping allied characters get in range for attacks. And now she has a leadership that guess what helps allied characters get in range for attacks. Like
yeah, and you know who's really good with a reposition is the new Black Bolt. I mean, he's got
yeah,
he's got Beam 4,
yep,
right? And so if you get into a place where you can double tap with him, he's going to turn up the volume.
yeah,
And he's got this trigger, so like maybe in the first attack you can only hit one or two, but you get that short advance off of it's once per turn. So you can only do it once, but you get that reposition. Well, now he's double tapping and he can beam for the other half of the team or maybe get them all depending on, the crisis.
yeah,
I really like this.
yeah. I'm excited for this. I think it'll be a fun leadership to play.
Yeah.
Um, all right, the other two cards that are coming in this pack, one is called Plots Within Plots. And this one, during the power phase, Maximus the Mad may spend 4 power to play this card. Until the next cleanup phase, once per turn, when an enemy character ends a movement within 2 of an allied character. After the effect is resolved, an allied character not within 2 of the enemy character may advance small. That's a mouthful, but basically it reminds me of Winter Guard's tactics card. What is that one where they all move towards someone when they get hit kind of thing?
Are you seriously asking me what Winter Guard does? Nobody knows.
It's fair. This tactics card reminds me of Sovereign Strike. No, that's not it. It's Winter Rush. Uh yeah, yeah, it reminds me of Winter Rush. Basically, somebody moves in close to one of your characters. Everybody else that's not near that character gets to move. This is kind of interesting, but I don't know the usefulness of it. What do you where do you think this is going to come up?
I think this is something that probably comes up at the end of the game when you're trying to, just make sure that certain characters don't get taken out. I that's the
Yeah,
best use that I can see for it is somebody moves up to try and get to your back line and they end near your front line.
I guess
Um
I guess you could like if you somehow got out of position. This is another thing, would help with Maximus's leadership. If you got out of position, you play this in the power phase with Maximus, you can help the rest of your team get back into position, assuming that your opponent, does a movement, um, and doesn't just need to double tap a character or something.
I'm gonna make a statement about Maximus's kit and tactics card.
Yeah, what's that?
I think that it is very thematic because there's something that fires in the back of your brain and you're like, "Oh, you got to be big brain to play this guy." There's something here,
Yeah,
but really I don't think there is. I think it's like it's just designed to make you think there is.
that's
So it is
funny.
driving you mad.
There, it's definitely one of the most interesting leaderships we've seen. Uh, in a long time.
Yeah, and
I
this
would agree with that.
this
Um,
card is the same way, where it's like there might be something there, but also it feels like there's not, and they're trying to get you to goose chase.
maybe Tip will surprise us. Maybe he'll pull off some crazy stuff and win a couple tournaments or something. I would be excited to see it.
I would cheer for him.
Yep, me too. I'm 100% behind him if he does that.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the last one here. It's called Genetic Prophecy. This one is in humans. It's specific. It's reactive. You play it during the power phase. If you have at least two fewer victory points than your opponent, an allied Blackagar Boltagon. So this is both of them because they both have the same surname. You could be Black Bolt 1 or 2. May play this card. You gain 2 VPs this round. This character cannot make attack action. So whichever Black Bolt you used it on cannot make attacks. So one's a 5 threat, one's a 6 threat. That's pretty wild. Is it going to be worth the 2 VPs? I think circumstantially, maybe. There are some places where you could play this card and it'll be absolutely busted or save you. Not busted. It'll save you the game. You're standing on a D shape where you couldn't make attacks anyways, and you play this card and you're like, all right, I'm back in the game. Or it, I don't know. I don't know where that would, like, if you're close enough to attack and to try and displace or daze someone with an extract, you're definitely not playing this card, and then it would be absolutely useless.
I, I think this, like you said, is very circumstantial, but I can see two situations where it could be useful.
Yeah,
You send Black Bolt up one flank on like a D or a B, and he just does what he needs to do, and he's just gonna stand there. He can't really do much, so he's gonna pick up an objective or interact or whatever and double move. Um, so it could be useful there. The other one is it's really like if he's holding a couple hammers and needs to get out of there.
yeah.
Like if he just like yes he could attack, but like it's worth a 4 VP swing to not attack with him. I think that's really it. Like you probably
Yeah.
take it in your 10 every time. It probably only hits the table a couple games out of 5, and then you actually only use it once or twice.
You definitely want this card for the swing turns. You want your opponent got ahead by a bunch or something, and this is your turn to blast off into space, right? To make your comeback. And then you go from like you having 12 or your opponent having 12 and you having like 8 to okay, now all my characters just woke up from being dazed. I play this card because I'm behind, but I'm also going to score all of these secures this turn and just win the game on the spot.
Yeah.
Like that, it definitely has that potential, but actually pulling it off is like, mm,
The card that this makes me think of a lot is Usurp the Throne, but it is not like it at all. The 2 VP swing has certainly won me games before,
yeah,
100%. But you're also not only attacking with that character, you're attacking better than before. So, and he's a 4 threat. So
right,
you take a 5 or 6 threat, now they can't attack.
yeah.
It's really got to win you the game. Like, it's got to lock it down.
And I'd love to say that either Black Bolt has a good like ability to use on their turn instead of attacking, but they really don't. Like, one of them can help like 6 threat can help characters move around, and 5 threat can like bodyguard, but neither of those are worth subverting your attacks for 2 VP, in my opinion. Um, but there are going to be clutch cases where this wins you the game. I don't disagree. I think this is just this goes back to, like big brain thinking, right?
Mhm.
All right.
I think that this is playable, but extremely niche.
Yeah, it's something you'll have to work to pull off, and it'll only come up every once in a while. Um, that's that's where I'm at on it.
Mhm.
All right. Well, we made it through. Congratulations, buddy. We did Gladiator, we did Maximus, we did Medusa's leadership, we did the two new crisis, we did the tactics cards that came in all of those boxes, and we're on to the affiliation game. Uh,
Yay.
this is a new game that I came up with. It doesn't quite have the longevity of the last game because it's based on affiliations. But how this is going to work, uh, Dustin and I will each give each other an affiliation. You and I will score points based on the amount of characters that we name that are accurately in the affiliation given. So, for instance, I give you here. We'll just go Black Bolt, right? I say Inhumans, you say Black Bolt, right? And then that's 1 point. Your aim in 30 seconds is to name as many characters as you can in the affiliation given, uh, and you will score points based on that. And after 3 rounds, an easy round, a medium round, and a hard round, we will tab up the points, and you're gonna win or I'm gonna win, and we both call each other, and one of us will call the other one a loser, and we'll hate each other for a week, and then we'll reconvene, and everything will be fine.
Okay, so same as always.
uh,
No, clarifying question.
yeah, go ahead.
If there are multiple characters that have
Then
the same name,
Yeah, then
can
you
I
have
say
to
Black
say
Bolt 1, Black Bolt 2, or do I have to say King Black Bolt?
no. You have to say Black Bolt 1 or 2. Like if you use the number, that is sufficient. In cases
Okay.
of like multiple characters with different threat, just say their threat level, uh, or the like if I can
Some
understand
way
what
to
you mean.
identify them
Yeah,
other than
yeah, that's
just
fine. Like
cool, because I don't know all the
RS1,
different.
RS2, RS3, right?
Yeah,
We know what
okay,
those are by that identification. All right,
yeah.
so and the way this is going to work, there's 3 rounds. The first round, we're going to give each other an easy affiliation. This is an affiliation that likely has a lot of characters that are easily identifiable, and you're going to score a lot of points. The second one will be medium. This one should have 15 or less characters in it and less identifiable, but still going to score a decent amount of points. And the last one are going to be hard affiliations with like very few characters or hard to identify characters, and they and you'll likely get less points. Would you like to go first or second, buddy?
I want to go first.
Okay. As in, you want to give me an affiliation first, or you would like me to give you one first?
Yeah, I'll give you one.
All right.
So it's just like what percentage of the affiliation can you name?
Nope, just number of characters. And
Okay.
I'm gonna write yours down, but if you just want to count them on your fingers, the correct ones, that works too.
Okay,
I
you
will.
totally you saved yourself because I was gonna give you Dark Dimension right off.
Not for an easy one. Dark Dimension only has one unless you allow me to name the whole character, every character.
It's only one, but you'll get 100%.
No, no, you can't do
Yeah.
that.
Okay. I will give you. Why don't we start with Cabal?
Okay. Like, all right. Do you have some way to time me?
I can.
I can time myself if you need me to. But
30 seconds on the clock. Go.
all right. RS1, RS2, RS3. Viper. Let's go Zemo. Let's go Strucker. Let's go TV and Chest Man. What the fuck's his name? Fuck it. We'll do Baron Mordo. We'll do Dracula now. We'll do Baron Zemo 4 threat. Let's do. Oh, why am I stopping? There's so many more. I think I already said Strucker. Who else is in the High Council? I wow. Oh my God. That was
I gave you like an extra 10 seconds on accident. So
okay. All
you
right.
got 10.
Okay, sure. I got 10.
Yeah, but you didn't like do anything in the last 10, so you're good.
Okay. That's hilarious. All right. So starting off strong with 10, I got Cabal, and I
And there were
will.
37 characters for the record.
Is there really that many? Oh
There
my
are
gosh.
37, and I'm looking at the list, and there's some that like you wouldn't expect.
All right, let me set a 30-second timer for you. And I will tell you your affiliation. All right, are you ready?
Yep.
And your affiliation is Avengers, starting now.
Steve 1, Steve 2, Steve 3, Scarlet Witch, Sam Wilson, Thor 1, Iron Man, Hulkbuster, and oh my god.
8 seconds. 5 seconds. 4,
Black Panther,
2.
Black Widow 1, Black Widow
Oh,
2.
you got 2 Black Widows before we closed off for
Okay.
11 characters.
Yes.
You beat me by 1.
I
Oh,
remembered Black Widow at the last second. I was like, oh,
yeah.
point.
Well, you also said Iron Man, but you didn't say like Iron Man 2. You,
I forgot there's Iron Man 2.
well, most people do. He's not traditionally taken.
I remembered Hulkbuster, which,
Yeah,
you know,
so you technically got 2 of the Iron Man.
yeah.
All right, so I've got 10, you got 11. You're beating me by 1 point. We're moving into the medium category. This should be an affiliation that either has 15 or less characters, and is somewhat identifiable, but is not going to yield the 10 points that I got on the previous one. Whenever you're ready, I am ready.
Okay. Setting your timer.
Okay.
Okay. Your affiliation is Guardians of the Galaxy. Go.
All right. Star-Lord, Rocket, Groot, Ronan, Beta Ray Bill, Gamora, Nebula, who the hell else is in this affiliation? Those are all the ones I see on the table. Nova Yondu, one of those two is affiliated. Maybe both of them.
They're both affiliated. I'll give it to you.
Okay. Uh,
Time.
all right. How many did I
That
get?
is 9
I got 9?
out of 13.
I know more Guardians than I know Cabal. I see them on the table so often. All right, so I've got 10 for my first, 9 for my second. I'm up to 19. I did pretty well on my second.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find you. Here we go. This one is an interesting one. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Your affiliation is X-Force. 30 seconds now.
Domino, Deadpool, X-23, Honey Badger, Cable, Bishop, uh, Sabretooth. I don't know. Sabretooth 1, Sabretooth 2. I don't know if they're affiliated, but we'll say
One of them is.
Wolverine, Logan.
Logan is
No.
not.
Okay.
All right, time. That is
Yeah.
8.
Okay.
We tied it up. We both have 19. You got Bishop, Cable, Deadpool, Domino, Honey Badger, Sabretooth, Wolverine, X-23.
Not too bad.
No. I didn't realize that Logan is not affiliated.
Yeah, I'm looking at the list now. Yeah, I think I got pretty much everybody I was gonna get.
Yeah, like
I
Colossus.
didn't realize Colossus was
Yeah,
in there.
that was a surprise to me as well when I was looking at it. I wouldn't have got Colossus. I did not think of Archangel. He's kind of new to me. Psylocke is kind of out of my vision. Deadpool you should have got, and you did, right, actually.
Yeah.
Sunspot's a new one.
Yeah.
All right. So we're tied 19-19 after both of our both of our mediums. Um,
Hmm.
so I guess I'm ready for my hard. So this should be one that has 10 or less characters and is somewhat hard to recognize.
Okay.
And if it goes over 10, that's fine too, but just lower recognizable. I shouldn't don't give me Midnight Suns.
Yeah. Well, we'll go. Let me pull up your timer. All right. Your affiliation is Black Order.
Thanos, Corvus, Proximus, or Proxima, not Proximus, Black Dwarf, Black Swan, Ebony Maw, Supergiant. Who else is in this affiliation? I feel like Taskmaster is because
Nope.
everyone takes him, but I know he's not. That's 7.
You've only got one left.
Oh, okay. I said Ebony Maw. I said Black Dwarf. I said Black Swan, Supergiant.
Time.
All right. Who did I miss?
Let's make Ghost Rider.
Oh, CGR. Yeah, nobody takes him in Black Order. That makes sense. I got 7.
Yep.
Well, that's pretty good. I'm up to 26.
There you go.
All right. Let's find one under 10 for you. Um, Wakanda. No, no, not Wakanda.
One affiliation I actually know.
Yeah, I know. That'd be like, oh, here you go. Here, have an easy one. All right. You gave me one with 8, so I'll give you one with 8. And I feel like some of these will be similar, so it might be easier than I thought. But if you're ready, I'm ready. Uh,
Yep.
y- your affiliation is Weapon X. 30 seconds on the clock, going now.
Uh, Domino, X-23, Honey Badger, Sabretooth 2.
One of those
Uh,
isn't, but I'll take it.
okay. Logan, Wolverine. Um,
Well, Wolverine is not.
okay. Weapon X. Omega Red?
Nope.
No.
You said Deadpool, Domino, Honey Badger, Sabretooth, X-23, and time.
Yeah.
You got 5.
Who did I miss?
You did not say Maverick, Weapon X.
Oh, okay.
So the all of them is Deadpool, Domino, Honey Badger, Logan, Maverick, Sabretooth 2, Weapon X, and X-23.
Okay. I don't feel that bad about that because Maverick, is he even out?
He is? Yeah, he's out. He's pretty new, but he's out.
Him and Weapon X, I've never seen on the table. So I
Yeah,
don't feel terrible about that.
I got messed up by Weapon X at LVO.
Oh, well, there you go. How is he? Like, Healing Factor 3
It
is
it can
pretty
be a
nuts.
yeah, it can be a big deal. It can really mess you up, but he's real squishy as well. Like if you just daze him, I just didn't have the tools apparently because the one time I tried to kill him, like I left him on 1 and then he's back up to, having 4 health left.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, a narrow defeat. You come up to 24. I have 26. I'm obviously the best ever. You'll have to try and reclaim your title next week. But yeah, it's just a cool game. What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah,
Affiliation game?
I think we have one more week of doing it probably.
Yeah, before we duplicate and start to know all of our affiliations. I agree.
Yeah. No, I liked the time on it.
Yeah, that was
One of
cool.
the things about the last game we played was it did go a little long if you couldn't guess.
Right, yeah. It was a little it would get a little long-winded if you didn't know what was going on
Yeah.
or like what to guess.
Yeah.
All
But
right.
I like this one. I think that it's going to be challenging to find hards though.
Yeah, hards are difficult because like you could give someone Sentinels and they probably know everything's in Sentinels, but they're only getting like 4 points.
Yeah. I mean, and there
Uh,
are a couple affiliations now that are just like, oh, this one character.
right, yeah, you could say like Lost Legions of whatever for Mephisto, and then it's just Mephisto.
Yeah.
Um, all right, so we have negative time left, but if it's cool with you, let's shoot through this LVO recap here.
Okay.
So as you guys know from our last episode, before I went to LVO, I was planning on going to LVO. I took Spider Foes. I took Tricks and Traps list with Goblin at the head. I did not take Doc Ock 4 threat at all. I took 3 threat and only for the tactics card to keep spiders from running away with the game and having all the extracts. That tactics card is called Well Laid Plans, and it saved me many times. But as for my LVO experience, oh man, so much fun. Had a blast of a time. Played full 6 rounds in that event over the course of 2 days. My day one was absolutely tragic, and I was not happy with it. But then I went out and got drunk and recovered, and the next day I went 3-0, so I was back on top.
Unlike other players, Devin actually gets better when he's hungover.
Yeah, that's it. That's how it
Uh,
works.
so for the people that don't know, what was your overall record?
So I finished the tournament in 14th place out of originally 64, but I went 4-2. Um, I got best in faction for Spider Foes, and there were only two other Spider Foes. They were the closest one was in 35th slot. As we all know, Eric Wong took LVO with Asgard. He fought out against Mike Ban Researcher DeLuca, who was doing a similar list. They only had one different character at the top table, uh, which is unfortunate, but it's LVO, so what did we expect, right? Um, my matches. So day one, like I said, was terrible for me. I didn't like it. But day one, I went up against a Master of the World Cabal RS3 list, and the one of the best attrition lists out there. And myself with my traps, I took a. I'm pretty attrition. Let's see. I'll pull up the picture of this man's murder that he did to me. He took Thor 2, of course, because you do. Took his leader, right? RS3. He took Zemo, and he took Loki 1, which was surprising, and he took Bullseye. We were on Infinity Formula and Deadly Legacy. He put Bullseye on one side all by himself and deployed his whole team to the other side. And it was too late into my deployment to realize what he was doing. Um, so I ended up putting the Sinister Trap in that corner, but I got overwhelmed by his absolute dominance of attrition in that corner, and Thor 2 just wrecked Electro and Mysterio in that corner. And it was I also took Ebony Maw and I took Goblin and Ebony Maw with no gem and Rocket. I think let's see, Goblin 4, Ebony Maw is 5, and then 7 more, 16, and I forget who else I was playing, but obviously not important because he dominated that corner and ended up having 2 of the legacy viruses and those 2 points without much contesting. So that one ended very quickly, and since it was LVO and I still had 5 rounds to go, I did not let my spirits drop much. I just accepted my loss and the fact that I would not be winning LVO and moved on to the next table. At the next table, I was greeted by a nice guy, uh, but he was playing the only Weapon X, or yeah, Weapon X that decided to come to LVO or that showed its face at LVO, and he went 6 wide to my 5, and this was on. I think it was intrusions with hammers, and oh my goodness, I couldn't kill a single model to save my life, and they just kept healing back up. It was horrendous. I think there were a couple times where my traps like would almost kill a Weapon X model, and then it would just heal all the trap damage, and I'd be like, "Oh, this is very bad matchup for my tricks and traps." It,
Yeah, your roster is really good at chip damage
yeah,
and against healing factor. That's exactly what you don't want.
yeah, I agree. This was a bad matchup, and I had some moments where I could daze characters and left them on one, and it felt even worse. The compounding factor there did not feel great. I like Mysterio's great into Weapon X because typically they don't have good Mystic defense, but it didn't matter. I just couldn't get through. Um,
Yeah.
I that's the game that I was talking about to the guys. I did a surprise webhead with four characters: a Venom, Green Goblin, Electro, and Mysterio, all targeting X-23, a three threat with five health. She had already taken one wound. All four characters, after all was said and done, I had done two damage. And I that was it. That's all she wrote. I could not daze a 1/3 threat with six attacks because I had double tapped this character previous to my surprise web hit. It was wild.
Yeah. And I've heard that the shape of your hand really determines your rolls.
Oh, you
And so
shut up.
maybe you need to practice and like get the right angle so that you can roll better.
Well, I must have figured it out on day two then. My final game of day three or day one, I went up against a I don't know how to describe this match, but this was a Hellfire Emma Frost. We played a double D shape. Um,
A true Emma Frost.
yeah, a perfect Emma Frost matchup. I did end up winning, but here's the story. I came to the table. I said he was like, "Hey man, how you doing?" I'm like, "Well, obviously we're not doing great because we're both 0 and 2 and we're at this table." And he's like, "Yep, it's not been great, but whatever. Let's have a good time." And I was like, "Yeah, let's roll some dice." And so we get into the game, and the first thing he's like, "Hey man, do you mind if I use these custom dice?" And I'm like, "I don't like this is not the tournament for me for custom dice." I'm like, "Can you just use regular ones?" And he's like, "I don't have any." And I was like, "Okay, well I have plenty of extra regular dice. You can just use mine." And there was a pause, and then he's like, "Don't worry about it, man. I'll just concede when the game is over." I kind of laughed at this, and I took it with a grain of salt. I'm like, okay, he's not willing to give up his dice. I'm not sure if he's serious about this concession, but I'll continue to play this game and with some faith that the dice are not gonna like you know traumatize me because I've heard so much stigmatism, you know, stigma with these superstitions surrounding custom dice. But I moved on from it and I was just like, all right, let's just try to win this game and overcome whatever is about to happen. So, anyways, we're in this game and we're playing it out, and he's starting to win. Emma one shot spikes Doc Ock with his four Mystic defense, and then Builder spikes into Mysterio, who has five Mystic defense, and both of them days on the spot. And this is like round three. I'm like, oh shit. I tug the game out a little bit longer. We make it to like round five. He ends up winning by like 3 points. Because like I said, this is like cosmic invasion matched with hammers or scrolls, one or the other. I don't quite remember. Um, but anyways, I'm like, oh man, good game. Like and he was even commenting how his dice were popping off, right? And it was the only game all day where he'd seen like successful dice because obviously he's 0 and 2 too, and I'm like, yeah, that's rough. Good game, buddy. And I at that point I had accepted that I had went 0-3 that day. And he shows me his phone and he's submitted his concession. He's like, "Yeah, I told you I'd concede. Here you go." And he gave me the win. And I was just kind of puzzled walking away from that game and that interaction. Because why did we play it? Why
Well,
just for
yeah,
fun?
I mean, a lot of people take LVO kind of as a just a trip to Vegas, and maybe he was like, I'm not gonna win. I'm 0-2, and like I want to use my dice. Like maybe at that point he was already kind of resigned, you
Maybe.
know.
I
Um,
I guess I could understand that perception, but for me, I put in like it doesn't matter that I'm not gonna win, but I put in actual tournament games to even qualify. And at any point in the tournament, if I'm not just gonna like lay down and die.
did you check if he even showed up for day two? Because a lot of people don't do that as well. If they have a negative record, especially if it's 0-3, they're like, I'm gonna go play in a side event or just enjoy a day in Vegas.
Yeah, let me.
Because if he dropped, maybe he was just like he was already thinking that before your match, and he just didn't care.
Right, yeah, I could get that. Let me see if I can find his name. Yeah, so he did drop
There you go.
after our game.
Yeah. So he wanted to go get drunk and then not play with a hangover.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's a confusing. I have a problem with those days. He recognizes it and then agrees to a concession before the match even happens, and then he wins the match, and then I did not expect him to follow through with the concession, but he did, and I don't know. I guess I'll take it. It felt dirty.
What was his name
Is
or his Longshanks?
Yeah, his Longshanks is Justin Bukowski, which I assume is his actual name.
Justin, you are a man of honor, a true
Yeah, he
professional
actually is
casual.
a professional casual. But like
Yeah.
he didn't do the qualifier. He actually qualified to be there via some tournament.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. I think that at the end of the day, he probably saw that you were more invested in the competitive side, and he probably already had some inkling of like I'm probably gonna drop or like I might drop. And then when you ask like, "Hey, can we use official dice?" He was just like, that's the final straw. And he was like, "Okay,
That
I'm
was
good." Yeah,
all right.
like
All right. Okay. So yeah, I mean so that was match 3. And I went out and I was like I wasn't super happy about my day 1, and I was like I went and obviously got drunk and had fun, and then came back, and day 2 I must have had a fire under my ass because I went 3-0 this day, and um I played an Asgard player first, who obviously is 1 and 2 like me, and that match was I didn't even need to spike him. I just his team fell apart. Like his dice weren't there, and he took big old Thor 2, Loki, and Beta, and Goblin and Thanos and Electro up against that, or not Electro, Mysterio up against that 15. I think we had Gamma, and we just displaced the shit out of him, and he had no chance. Like that. That was in the bag very swiftly.
very cool.
And then game 4 or game 5, this would be game 5. I went up against Vado Bob, a very good Defenders player. I think he's almost 600 when I came up against him. And this match was a similar. We played Fisk and Fisk. I want to say Legacy is. Yeah, it was Fisk Legacy. That's what it was. Because the ending of this game was hilarious. So he took natural defend like basic defenders. So we had Daredevil, we had Black Panther, Champion of Bass, we had a Hulk, and I'm forgetting who his last character was, but I took Thanos, I took Electro, and I took Goblin, and I just kept his Hulk away, and I put a trap so that his Black Panther would have to essentially double move to be able to get that turn 1. And then when he came in, it was Luke Cage, I think was his 3. We just spiked him, and Luke Cage was off the table top of 2. and then Daredevil was off the table, top of three. Like it was very killy to the point that all he had left was Hulk and Black Panther. And at the choice moment when I was about to like lose like priority and start to like lose velocity, I pulled Black Panther Champion Bastion, who was holding the final Deadly Legacy. I dazed him, and then with Thanos, who had the other two Deadly Legacies, picked up the third one and ran to a corner and died to score the 16 points.
There you go.
It was like an amazing finish to the game.
That is cool. You don't really get to assemble the legacy too much,
Right.
and you know, I like his list because like I would expect at LVO with defenders you're taking like, the most cream of the crop meta stuff, but he took Black Panther and you don't see him too much.
Right. Yeah. That I was kind of surprised by that one.
Yeah.
The rest of them make sense. They're very good characters. And then my last match was the sixth match. I also won. This was up against Miles Morales, Web Warriors. And like Spider Foes versus Web Warriors is very thematic, but it's also very favored for me.
Hmm.
I took Venom, I took Electro, I took Goblin, I took Mysterio, and I took Rocket up against Miles, Wong, Toad, Spec Spider, Ben, Scarlet Spider, and Black Cat. So he went six wide to my five. Um, Goblin absolutely devoured Spec Spider as he does. Mysterio ended up playing custom upgrades on Miles Morales and had his number for most of the game. Venom not allowing the modifications on the defensive side goes really well against Miles Morales' leadership,
Hmm.
and just shut him down. Um, that one, I think top like first activation of turn two after everyone was already in place. I went with Venom and I dazed two spiders off the bat. It was pretty atrocious.
Yeah. Well, that's honestly like when you say it, like I'm picturing the actual fight like from a movie.
Yeah,
Um and it's super cool, very thematic like you said. Um I don't is that I've heard you say that before, that it's very uh slanted in your favor. Have you ever lost to Web Warriors?
you know what? That's a good question. I haven't even checked my stats on Green Goblin versus Web Warriors, but it's got to be like very favored um, against Web Warriors because obviously my le- my leader has the arch nemesis ability, and Spec Spider slash Peter Parker is one of their like favorite characters to run.
Yeah, and all of them.
Yeah,
Like you don't I can't even remember the last time I saw a Web Warriors team hit the table without one Peter Parker.
right.
Um,
Now I've got 4 games into webs, and I have not lost a single one with Spider Foes.
Interesting. I kind of like that though, because Web Warriors have at various times been top of the meta. But just to know that like their enemies always have their number. Like I think that's cool. Uh, how did Web Warriors do as a whole in the tournament? Were there any like high placing ones?
Yeah, they actually had a really good play, like top 10. I'll pull it up for you.
Yeah. I was
Uh,
just curious because right now, when I think of what's going on in the meta, super aggro is what pops into my head. So,
yeah, so no, spot number 8, another 4-2 record. Um, Person by the name of Quebec Tango. He had a Web Warriors list. And then the next one is rank 16.
hmm.
But the top 8 placing, you got ASM, Black Cat, Ghost Spider, Miles, Spec Spider, Baron Zemo, Shang-Chi, Wong, Agent Venom, Beta Ray Bill.
Interesting.
So your typical like 6 or 7 characters with a few interesting splashes.
But the splashes are the best things in the
Yeah,
generic pile. You have Bill, Zemo, and Shang-Chi,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
those are all cream of the crop.
Yep. It's like the best of webs with the best splashes you can think of.
Yeah, cool.
All right,
Well,
man. Well, that is
how do you,
my. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, how do you feel overall? We're gonna start the qualifiers for next year here pretty soon. Like, do you feel like it's something that you're gonna want to do again? Were there any fun events that you went to that weren't the main tournament?
Yeah, I mean, LVO was great, and I had a blast. I think I definitely want to be, if I can get invited, part of the main event. Uh, but if I don't make it, they were doing some really fun stuff on the side, like gymnastics. I wish, and you know what? I think I'm gonna host an event around here for gymnastics because that is so much fun. Basically, you build your roster gym agnostic, like gyms don't matter, and then you add a gym to any character after deployment, any gym, and it doesn't cost any threat. So
Yeah.
you could just have like, a Hulkbuster with a space gem, or like just crazy, crazy weird combinations, and it's so much fun.
Magneto with the space gem. Let's make this six threat playable.
Yeah.
Let's do it. And it's not even breaking him. It's just making him able to move like a decent amount.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much cool like interactions you can pull off, and you don't have to stick with it. Your list can, well, I mean, the gym can change each game, right? So it's really
Yeah.
cool. I'm gonna host one for Paradox.
Yeah.
Uh,
Please do. Our meta is really friendly to that sort of stuff. We like playing the one shots and the gems. Like,
yeah,
I
yeah.
think that everybody would be on board.
I think gymnastics would be a hit. I'm gonna run that. All right, man, we did it. We made it through. We we talked about uh we talked about Gladiator, we talked about Maximus, we talked about the Medusa leadership, we talked about all the new crisis, the new tactics cards, we had the affiliation game, and we even got through my LVO recap. Um,
And it only took 2 hours.
it didn't. We're not quite to 2 hours, but that is all for tonight. And until next time, keep your eyes on the forecast, and may your games always be sunny. Thank you, and goodbye.
Bye bye.